friends on the East Coast, good morning. So as we finish this week about boundaries, I think it's really important that we take one step back. And, there's this thought process called neuroassociation, right? How your brain associates like one thing to another. And a lot of times people can associate boundaries with confrontation, right? Who thinks setting a boundary with somebody could be confrontational? Hit yes in the chat box. So the majority of us have said yes. So the question, Elkin, was, do you think setting boundaries is confrontational? So here's my thought process on this, and this is why I'd like to reframe this for all of us today. If you look at the word setting boundaries, boundaries is a way of us saying that, hey, we're not available in real estate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're just not going to work with everybody, right? But clients, write this down, we want to create a predictable client experience. A predictable client experience. Boundaries equals predictability. So we're going to have Megan Watson here today, and we're going to actually have a live dialogue on, she's a coaching client and a friend, and she's going to explain to us like how they use this, how this shows up, how to deal with the objections, and how it's ultimately benefited their lives. See, people are so afraid to tell someone that they're not always available because we all have this fear of not having anything or not having enough or not having our next deal. But remember our experiences with the contractor, right? You don't know when they're coming. You don't know when they're leaving. You sure as hell don't know if they're working on Saturday. You don't know what's going on with your project. Like all of these things happen to us and we don't like it. If a contractor told you that I'm going to contact you once a week and, what are the things you want updates on? Great. These are the 3 things you want updates on. Mondays at 6 o'clock, I'll give you a call and we'll go through that. And if any questions, save them till then. Alexa, the answer is yes. So if you think about it, having boundaries creates a better experience for your clients. And for you, it creates a healthier relationship with your work. You can't be everything to everybody. You can't always be on. Sets the expectations. Correct, Mark. Look, I always used to joke around when I was an agent, and they would say, Chirag, the other agent says that they're going to work 24/7, like they're always available. And I would say, I would smile, right? And it's all about the delivery. And I would say, Mark, would you prefer working with someone where the relationship starts with a truth or a lie? And they're going to say a truth. I'm going to say, well, it's a lie. Who the heck is awake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless they're a vampire and don't require sleep? It's literally, the basis of this is all a lie. And then they all just kind of laughed, right? And, it kind of progresses into a conversation, right? And like when we go through the communication plan, we engineered this to make sure people's needs are met, right? What happens if I need to talk to you after hours? What if it's an emergency? What happens in these types of scenarios? So let me introduce Megan, if you could spotlight her as well. TaskRabbit. So good morning, everyone. I have to change my view to see that. Okay, you're with me. I like the whole gallery view. Sorry, everybody. So I didn't realize that you were on here. So Megan, introduce yourself and tell them where you're from.
Hey, I'm Megan Zamberlin Watson. My husband, Rich Watson, and I are out of the greater Seattle area, and we run a team out of here. And we've been fortunate enough to work with Chirag for a while now. And we had terrible boundaries when we first met him. Chirag will agree. Being married and running a team together means, especially when you have two slightly workaholic people, that we basically set no boundaries with our clients at all at first. And well, actually for a long time. And we had talked about it, that we really needed to have these conversations and to have communication plans, because it's not only just setting that predictability for your clients, it's for you too. And right about the same time that we instilled this, we had a client who, we didn't know this starting, one, wouldn't talk to me, only would talk to Rich, and two, felt the need to call Rich at 11:30 at night, and think that was normal and be angry if we didn't answer. And so setting that like boundary up front now with our clients has been like a massive game changer. So we use it for both buyers and sellers.
And so what do you use, right? We'll actually have.
We actually use the PDF that you included in we've tweaked it a little bit, but to meet our own like kind of hours and like how we work, but we tweaked the one that you used in, put in the chat and on the platform. For sellers, it's actually been a really great and easy conversation basically every time. We frame it in a way that is like, that it's for them, that it's a positive, because when you make it about them, like you get less pushback on it, because you have other people with different types of communication styles. And so one of the pieces we pull in is, how do you like to be communicated with? And that's an easy conversation to then talk about, like, okay, well, this is the time we'll be available. This is what time I'm generally available. I'm the morning contact person. I ride horses, so I'm generally up early. Not my favorite thing to do, but that's it's still dark out, by the way. I'm in Seattle. And we prep it as like, do you like a phone call? Would you rather us text you for a schedule? Or would you just like emails? We have a client that he only wants to know what's happening when something big is happening. He doesn't want to know the in-between. So we're able to kind of personalize their experience while at the same time setting boundaries of when they can expect us to call, when they can expect feedback, and when they can expect to have a returned phone call. So that's kind of a way that we've been able to do it with no like real pushback, to be honest. People are kind of, once they say it, now I have people actually like apologize for like texting me late, which is lovely. Yeah, and it came in handy as a thing that you wouldn't think that it would come in handy. We had sellers divorcing. This was a big, it was like, so it started out like like a very amicable divorce. No divorce is happy, but it got less amicable. And we had made a communication plan and set the boundaries from the get-go that they had to be on all communications, whether it be a phone call, an email, they had to be together on the call so that one person wasn't getting one side of the thing. And as we progressed, one of the sellers kept trying to break the communication plan. And the way that we instill this is we actually have them sign it with their listing with their listing paperwork. So that way it goes into our business tracker on their profile and in their business tracker, and we have access to it. And if they really want to like combat something like that, we just say like, per our communication plan, we need to get your partner on this call. And if they still insist, we send them a copy of it and say, reminder, we all agreed to this. We don't want to be in the middle. So that's been a good bonus for us.
So I'm going to share this and we'll walk everyone through this together. But couple things here. Number one thing, I'm saying these are boundaries for all of you. To your clients, this is the greatest thing that they've ever had. What's the number one complaint I don't hear from my realtor? If you think about this, and no one has to hit yes if they do this in the chat box, is You go there, you get really excited. I'm going to sell your house. You know, I have Compass Concierge, I have Compass Bridge Loans, I have Coming Soon, Private Exclusive, I have this great digital ads platform. I have all this great luxury marketing. We're going to launch your home and do all these great things. We have an open house coming, bop, 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 right? It's just all promises, right? And then they get really excited and we're like, thank you so much. I feel really good about this. And then you're like sporadically contacting them to prepare the house for sale, launch their pre-marketing and everything else, right? But then after that, what do they really know? When are they going to hear from you again? They have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And this gives them the idea of like, okay, do you want we tell them that we don't do this because in this market, if we called them after every showing, they'd be so annoyed with us. But if they want like an end of day update, if they want an end of the weekend update, if they just want to wait until like review date, and then they have that expectation of, we also start with giving them like kind of a prep in timeline communication plan that says like, this is when you'll hear from us about Compass Concierge. This is when you'll hear from us about starting your, like, we'll do a walkthrough prior to your photo shoot. Here's your photo shoot, and kind of give them that whole thing. And one thing that's been a cool cheat around in like referencing our communication plan and that kind of like time in plan is notes in your contact. So we put their notes of their preferences in their contact and business tracker, so that anybody that has access to it can see what they prefer when we've called them and when they're expecting to be called.
So in the end, right, this becomes a predictable client experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if communications here, here's how you win listings with this. I remember there's one of the founding agents in Westport. She goes, I just won a $5 million listing strike against 9 other agents. I said, what was the difference? She says, having a written communication plan.
It's been a huge difference maker, because not just in our lives, but in the in client feedback, people have said like right off the bat that they knowing what they're getting into is, so since it's such a stressful experience anyway, it's a good way that they're knowing, like they know when to expect. And when you follow up on it the first time, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And
it's funny you said that, because I remember speaking at a triple play conference, and there was like a keynote speech, right? And there was this woman, and she was the Southern Gem, and she says, you know why people don't like real estate agents? I'll never forget this. And she goes, why? Because you go in their house and you lie. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what are these? And she goes, I bet you're all wondering what these lies are, right? I'm going to sell your home for the most amount of money possible. Do any of you control the market? No. In the fastest amount of time possible. You control how fast people sell homes. And then my favorite lie of all, why people really pissed off at you all the time, with the least amount of hassles. Have you ever met a hassle-free real estate transaction? And I was dying laughing. We all were. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is true, right? The 3 lies, right? So if you went in and you reframed it, you're going to say, look, people can't, and we go through the you control, I control. No, look, we can't control the market. We can't control a lot of these things, but this is what we can control. We can control managing the chaos that's going to be selling your home. And it's through organization. It's through a predictable client experience. It's through a written marketing plan, a written communication plan that allows you to know exactly what's going on, and that you never have to worry about when you're going to hear from us again.
The follow-up is everything. And once you at least for us, and that all the feedback has been like, once you follow up the first time, like, and you come through on that promise, they're like completely sold. And it's made it easy. Buyers, it's a little bit of a different process, but it's still totally a thing that people appreciate, because they want to know when you're going to call them too. So
let's pull up the seller one, then we'll go through the buyer one. So here's the other thing. It is very important to make them sign it. I don't know where you guys all are in the country, but people have buyer's agents agreements or buyer's brokers agreements. Those things are worth the paper it's printed on. However, here in America, when you sign a good old fashioned legal agreement, you feel bound to doing it, right? So there's that psychology to it, right? And it says it binds us and it binds you to this commitment, right? Some people I've even seen have gone in there and say, look, if we miss any of these calls without giving you a 24-hour notice, we'll give you $1,000 each occurrence at closing. Right? We put our money where our mouth is, right? I personally don't like that idea, but people have done it. So let me share this with everybody and we'll go through. Megan, I can be the seller and Megan will explain it to me.
Put me on the spot. Thanks, Chuck.
I'm good at doing that, I'm told. All right, go
I
ahead.
know. What? Go ahead.
You see it?
I see it. Let me make my screen big. I had notes, you know. It is early and I haven't had enough caffeine, and you know how important caffeine is to me.
Megan needs like a 2-to-1 ratio based on normal humans and caffeine. It
I
is
am
6:30 in the morning, though. I respect you for coming here early and doing this.
I'm trying to get it to go big. It doesn't.
All right, do you
I'm
want me to? Do you want me to be? You want to be the
There we
seller?
go. I got
Okay.
it. So, so Chirag, we are in the process of setting up your listing, and we want to talk about what communication is best for you. Do you prefer email? Do you prefer text? Do you just prefer a phone call? Do you like to have an appointment scheduled? Which one is kind of your preference?
I'm a very scheduled person, and so I would prefer either a phone or a video conference. And you actually schedule appointments on doing this? Well, how does that work?
What we do is we'll send you what we'll decide on what feedback schedule you like. And if you like to know after the end of day of showings, or if you'd rather kind of wait through the weekend and see and get a bigger bulk of feedback, or just wait for an offer, you let us know how you like to handle that. And what we do is we send you a text or an email that says, here are our times. Are any of these good for you? And from there, we schedule an actual appointment and we go over everything. And that allows us to kind of have you know and be planned on when we can chat. We can also schedule a consistent weekly call, or bi-weekly, whatever you would prefer at the beginning. And we take note of this, and you're able to know when to expect us.
Oh, no, a weekly call would be great.
Perfect. We like to do our weekly calls on Monday after the weekend. Are Mondays good for you?
Yeah, that would be great.
Great. We like to do end of midday, say 1 p.m. is what we have 1 p.m. availability for the next coming weeks. Is that a good time for you?
No, do you have anything in the evening?
We can do 5 p.m.
Perfect.
Great. And so then we go from there and we schedule it out. And so then we talk about when you can expect to hear from us outside of these calls. If you have a question or you have a concern or anything like that, you have both of our cell phones or emails. Email or group text is generally the best way to do it. However, if you're going to call someone, I am your girl by 8. I start the day at 8. And then we check our phones up until about 7 p.m. But we, after that, please only email or text us or before, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. If it's after in the nighttime, we will call you back in the next morning. So that's when you can expect to kind of hear from us.
Predictable experience.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then we include this in the whole listing paperwork and our transaction. We've agreed on it. It goes over, blah.
Good. So now let me give you some, I'll give you some helpful feedback.
Yeah.
So when doing this, right, it's always about framing the conversation, right? And you just want to set it up and give them back what they want, right? So I would say to you, during the process of selling your home, which is, would you think it's easy, challenging, difficult, or just you don't really care? No, I think it's difficult. Great, right? In a difficult time in selling your home, how important is communication to you? They're going to say it's very important. So would you prefer to work would you prefer to work with an agent that had a written communication plan? Oh my God, people have written communication. That'd be great. And then you get into it. And then you just literally think about it. It says, it's important for us to align on expectations, Megan. So what's your preferred method of communication? Is it email, phone, text? Do you like WhatsApp? Do you prefer a video conference? And then they pick one, right? Okay, great. Let me put that down. We have to add in the appointment part. That was a good one on your end. And then it says, how often would you like us to communicate? Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? You notice there isn't a thing that says every day, right? So she's going to say, go ahead, you can play along.
Oh, you want me to play along? You want me to tell you every day? Sorry. I would like daily.
Interesting. So what specifically would you like to know about every day?
What you're doing
What am I doing?
with selling the home. What are you actively doing?
So what it sounds like is you'd like to actually know a written marketing plan in advance of what your agent's going to do. So you don't have that uncomfortable feeling of knowing, is anyone doing anything to sell my home? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, great. So after we go through the written communication plan, we'll go through a written marketing plan where we could actually make you a calendar out for the first 30 days of what we're going to be doing. It'll include the communication days. So this way, the entire process is mapped out for you in advance. So you have certainty.
Great.
You see how I level shifted there? That was good, right?
Mhm.
So then I would go to, there are certain areas that people like updates on, right? Do you want updates on the number of showings each week?
Yes.
Showing feedback,
After the end of the day.
market updates,
If relevant.
and updates. I think this was important to the results of our marketing.
Yes.
So would it be okay if I shared with you why we do these and set appointments weekly?
Sure.
See, what we find is all of the items that we shared, from the marketing results of your house to what's going on in the market, the number of showings, the feedback we're hearing from other agents and buyers, all of this stuff is connected. So when you're sharing information and you're having a conversation about, in most cases, people's most valuable assets, it's really important to sit down for it to be planned, purposeful, where we have all of the information in one place, because we're going to be having to make large decisions together. And when you start just sending random feedback back at the end of each day, it's more, I find, to help someone's curiosity versus, honestly, the purpose of feedback is to see if we have to make any changes. But we don't want to make changes in a silo, right? Wouldn't you like to make a decision based on everything versus just a piece?
Of course.
So I hear communication's important to you, written plans important to you, and that having certainty of communication and clarity on marketing is really what you're looking for.
Yes.
Great. So we'll make sure that all of this stuff is properly documented. Now, the other thing that I'd like to discuss with you is clarity on when we're available, right? Would you feel comfortable ever going to a business where you didn't know their operating hours, what days they work, their after hours policy, and if there was an emergency, how to contact them?
No.
Okay, so I'll make sure that we don't do that here. So let's go through that now. I would write the days that I work, right? I work Monday through Saturday. On Sundays, I have two small kids. When I was a realtor, I'd show them a picture of my kids, and I'd be like, on Sundays, we're not available, right? And then here are the hours that we work, and you've outlined your hours. And here are a couple things that we want to do. Like, we understand that people work and not everything always gets done within the hours. So our policy is, if it's outside of our working hours, we request just a 1-day notice, and in most times we're able to accommodate appointments. Does that make sense to you, Megan?
That makes sense.
And like an emergency, right? We will check our phones by 9 p.m. each night. If something is an emergency and it's actually time sensitive, we'll get back to you before we go to bed for the evening. If not, we'll return your message during the start of working hours the following day.
Yes. We define emergency, by the way. Like, we kind of chat about it. Sorry, I got off character.
No, we found, and then this is a good point to find, but we find in real estate, there really aren't that many emergencies in an evening because there's not banks, there's not lawyers, there's not escrow companies, right? And you're going to say, look, we believe so firmly, we believe this is an agreement that's made between all three of us, right? So you'll get a calendar invite with your meetings scheduled out for the next 60 days. We will sign this and you'll sign this. And this is our communication plan, the way we agree to work with each other.
Sounds great. Where do I sign?
All right, can we all do this? We have made the sheet for you. There's nothing left to do.
It's a great tool. It's a great tool.
This is about creating a better experience for people. And the difference between good and great is practice. Mark, I take great pride in knowing that I made all of this stuff from scratch, right? Like this isn't something, right. This is stuff that we learned from listening to people, right? And we're always making new stuff based on what we're hearing. And look, it's not easy doing this with people. People are unrealistic. But again, Megan, right? It's like Monopoly. I asked someone, if you land on Go, what do you get? $400, right? If you land on free parking, what do you get? Nothing. I'm like, well, you can land on Go and get $400. Why don't you get free parking? $500, right? Like there is no rule book and people want this. And when you're in a competitive market where people want to cut commission and homes are literally selling themselves, right? You're competing on service and clarity and communication. What's really funny is if you look at an Inman article that they posted yesterday, it was from they talked about Gary Keller at their family reunion. And for the first time, they said, like, he said something abysmal about the state of real estate and it's all about service. I was like, that's really funny. I've been saying that for like the last 3-4 months, right? Anyone that's my client knows I've been obsessing about this for more than a year. So, it is a very common trend. Like we all need to level up our service. So I will tease this to you guys here first. We will, by the end of the week, lock down a venue for our next event in May. So we will give you an early form if you want to register in person. Our last event got sold out and had a waiting list. I anticipate this is probably going to be very similar as well. So Megan, thank you so much for being here. If you want to hear her again, we'll be back on in 3 hours at 9:30 Pacific.
I will probably be a little bit more awake because the caffeine intake will gone up.
Yeah. So listen, next week we have another big week, and we're going to get back into real life scenarios. And next week I want to show everyone how to role play and script, right? How do we practice these things that we've been learning these last few weeks? And we're going to break up into Zoom rooms and we're actually going to practice. So again, please turn your camera on, show up, be present, bring your energy. And I look forward to connecting with you all next week. Have a great rest of the week and make sure you attend Compass Inventory Day tomorrow and pound those phones, emails, texts, and video messages. See you guys later, everybody.